Hi, I'm Ruben Saltzman with Structure Tech Home Inspections, and today I'm going to talk about attic access panels and home inspections. Not gonna lie, one of the most frustrating parts of our job as home inspectors is coming across attics that we cannot inspect. This causes frustration for everybody involved in the transaction. Causes frustration for us as home inspectors, of course, but also for the buyers, for their agents, and it can lead to frustration for the sellers and the sellers' agents. Causes a lot of consternation for everybody involved in a home buying transaction if we come to do a home inspection and we cannot complete the home inspection because the attic is sealed shut or sprayed shut or painted shut or nailed shut, whatever you want to call it, if we can't get into the attic. This is a problem. And it happens way more frequently than it ought to. So why is this such a problem? Let's start with legal responsibilities. When a home buyer purchases a home in Minnesota, they almost always, and I'm talking like maybe 99% of the time, use a standard purchase agreement form. They all use the same form. They're not required to, but everybody uses the same form. It's been the same here in Minnesota since 2016. Everybody's been using the same one, and there's a line on there. And it's gonna be, if you've got a standard purchase agreement with numbered lines, it's gonna be, depending on who wrote it up, somewhere between about line 180 and 185. Under home inspections, it says, seller will provide access to attics and crawl spaces. It says it right in there. It's a given. The seller has to do this. But nobody reads this. I think the vast majority of real estate salespeople, often referred to as realtors, I think the majority of them are not aware of this language. Or if they are, they're just not drawing attention to it. And I think that most home sellers and home buyers don't read their purchase agreements very carefully, and they're not aware of this. I'll admit, if I were buying a house, there's a million things you gotta sign. There's like, about a million words that you need to read and initial and sign and all this stuff. I bought my share of houses. I have never read every contract in its entirety. It's easy to skip over this, but it's in there. That's the important part. It says that the seller needs to do this. So, all right, you have a contractual obligation to provide access to the attic. As a home inspector, we got to do our part. How do we call attention to this? Every time we schedule a home inspection, we send an email to the listing agent immediately, and we confirm the day and time, the address, what we're going to be doing there. And we send them a pretty short checklist. I mean, there might be 10 things on there, and we say, hey, this is some important stuff that the seller needs to do to make sure that we can complete the inspection the first time we're at the property. We don't want to have to make second trips. You don't want us to make second trips. Dropping my mic here. You don't want us to make second trips. We want to get it done in the first shot. So please pass this along to the seller. Make sure that they get this stuff done on the checklist. Now, in my best estimation, I'd say that this email gets opened and read and forwarded to the seller, and then they read it and they follow the instructions about 1 out of every 10,000 inspections we do. That is to say, really close to never. People do not open emails. If they do, they don't read them. You get my point. But we try. We're doing our best. We're telling the seller, look, we got a very short list of stuff for you to do. This is going to make everybody's lives a lot better. Please do it. It's the best that we can do. So we send out this information, and then once we get to the inspection, one of the first things we do once we get on site, that our inspectors do, is they take a tour of the inside of the house and they figure out where everything is. We like to figure out, where's the electrical panel? Can we get at it? Where's the furnace? Can we get at it? Where's the attic? Can we get at it? Super important. And if there's anything at the very beginning that we can't get at, we get on the horn right away. We'll call our office, or we'll call the listing agent, we'll call somebody and say, hey, look, I'm here to do an inspection, and we've got an attic access panel that is sprayed shut. Nobody has ever been in there. Now, to open it, I'm going to need to change the look of it a little bit. I'm going to need to bump it open or cut it or do something. It's not going to look exactly the way that it did before I arrived. Do I have permission to do this? And if they give us permission, we'll ask them to just shoot us an email or shoot us a text message, something where we have some type of paper trail showing that we were given permission to open this up. And as long as we get that, we're happy to do it. We'll open it up. I made a quick little video showing what this looks like. I made this many years ago, so I'm just going to talk over it. I'm going to talk over my video here. As I start out, I'm just laying down some plastic tarp. I want to make sure that if there's anything that falls down from the ceiling, I'm not going to make a mess. I'm going to set my ladder up. Now, normally I would put on a mask and I'd put on a headlamp and all that, but I kind of omitted that for a bit of the video because I wanted to talk through it. I'll turn it over to my old self here as I talk through bumping this thing open. I'd say the best way to do this is just give it a little bump, and I'll do that now. And that's it. So now we'll head on up to the attic. And then after I'm all done inspecting the attic, I just drop the lid right back down the way it was, and nobody ever knows that I was up there. If I really wanted to seal this off, we could put a thin little bead of sealant around there, or maybe some white painter's caulk, something like that. That's not what the code says. The code says it's supposed to be weather stripped. Don't believe me? Here, let's take a look at the code. I've got it. It's the Minnesota Energy Code. If we take a look at section R402.2.4, it says access doors from conditioned spaces to unconditioned spaces, e.g. attics and crawl spaces, shall be weather stripped. So, what does that mean? What's weather stripping? It's not defined in the building code, so I don't know exactly what it is. However, the Minnesota State Building Code does have a section at the beginning called definitions. And it says if we don't have something listed in the definitions, or I'll read it verbatim. It says under section R201.4, where terms are not defined through the methods authorized by this chapter, the Merriam-Webster Collegiate Dictionary, available at m-w.com, shall be considered as providing ordinarily accepted meanings. So this is incorporated by reference. So let's head on over to m-w.com, Merriam-Webster's dictionary, and let's see how they define weather stripping. A strip of material to cover the joint of a door or window and the sill, casing, or threshold so as to exclude rain, snow, and cold air. Also called weather stripping. Beautiful. Okay, so it's clear that caulk is not weather stripping, sealant is not weather stripping. It needs to be something where you can open it and close it. That's what the building code says. However, building officials seem to really not care. I find actual weather stripping at about maybe 1 out of every 100 new construction houses. All the rest of the time, they spray it shut, they paint it shut, they caulk it shut, they do something, making it so nobody's going in and out of that attic, and you need to change the look of it to get in and out. There are some cases where, unlike my video where I just bumped it open and it looked beautiful, there are some cases where people have really painted it or they've got caulk heavily applied. In those cases, as a home inspector, we're going to use a razor to cut that open. Once we're done, it's going to look pretty good. It's not going to be perfect. It doesn't look as good as it did when I just bumped it open and dropped it back down, but it's pretty good. And then, quick tip for any home inspectors watching this, something we do before accessing any attic is we take a picture of it to document what it looked like, and we take another photo of it to show what it looks like after we're done. All right, that's all I got for attic access panels. If you are a home seller, I strongly recommend that you make your attic accessible to the buyers. It's what's in your purchase agreement, and it's going to save a lot of hassle later on if you have a home inspector out who can't complete their job. If you're a home buyer, I suggest that you insist on having your attic inspected. It's in your contract. The attic is a very critical part of the home inspection. Get it inspected. All right, that's all I got for you today. I'm Ruben Saltzman with Structure Tech Home Inspections. Thanks for watching. Take care. Melinda, what are you doing?
gotta put stuff back the way it was. And it never fails that the attic access is always above somebody's the nicer clothes in the attic. So try and protect it as much as possible. Move it off to the side, move it off to the side. Big drop off down below us. So gotta keep it clean.